Yo guys, welcome back to the Cantina. So, we are a couple weeks into Star Wars Hunters Season 2. As such, we're back with a new tier list. We're going to re-rank all the hunters today. There have been some movements, some have stayed the same. Large in part to the updates that have been made in Season 2 to some of the hunters. However, not all of the changes are due to balancing updates. Some are just to, especially the higher ranked players, figuring out how to use different combinations, and some hunters just sort of being used in a more valuable way, I guess is the best way to describe it. So without further ado, let's jump into it, starting off with Char. So we previously ranked Char at a B, and I think he has definitely jumped up to an A. Char is definitely one of the better tanks in the game at this point. In high ranking sort of Kyber 1 lobby, you'll see Char oftentimes as a pick in some of these sort of heavy 3-tank teams. It can just be so hard to move off a point. If you've got a half competent healer keeping the Char going with his own sort of healing abilities, impossible to move. So Char definitely in an A. You see him all the time. Great pick right now. Next up, another tank, Groz. So Groz had a decent buff to his own healing. He now takes way less damage, or so his damage reduction whilst in his healing state has gone through the roof. He's definitely not Char level. He's still not quite as hard to kill as Char, and he's definitely not as a universal pick. For example, you probably wouldn't want to pick one in Milk Village, but on, say, Vespara Row, he's a great pick. Really, really good. He can put down a lot of damage in close quarters, so he's definitely moved up to a B. Probably not going to see him in some of, again, in sort of these top 100 player Kyber 100, Kyber 1 matches, but he's definitely moved up B tier for now. First damage hunter up, Aaron Tao. So I previously had quite a lot to say about Aaron. I wasn't very sold on him, wasn't a big fan. I thought he was pretty useless, to be honest with you. But we did drop him in B, and I'm also going to pop him in A for now. His damage has gone up a little bit, and his recoil has gone down. So he's much more accurate. I think Aaron still needs tuning a little bit. I think his ult could do with a buff. Maybe he needs some sort of damage reduction whilst he's in it, because he's still very vulnerable in his ult. But he's closing the gap on Reive. I think he's just as his mobility is just as high as Reive's, if not slightly higher, to be honest. Depending on how well you can use him. So we're going to drop Aaron in A for now. Definitely an improvement, and moving his way into the conversation for one of the best damage hunters in the game. Next up, Sentinel. Sentinel has some nerfs, so his stun no longer hits people for quite as long. His shield health has been reduced. However, he's still playing the game on easy mode. He really is still just the best hunter in the game. I think Sentinel needs some massive tweaks to be walked down a couple of pegs to be on like a fair ranking. Honestly, I probably should put another tier here just for himself, because he is still by far and away the best. You'll see him in pretty much every single top 100 lobby you're in. Picking him is honestly, not picking him at this point is pretty much paramount to throwing the game. Just insane, dude. His bash recharges super fast. His ult, I always say, it's not amazing, but it's enough to be distracting. Definitely not terrible. The stun is just incredible. The advent of Chaos coming to the game, a new tank who is massively vulnerable to Sentinel stun, just further increases his value. There's not really much else to say about Sentinel. He's still absolutely broken. Next up, Sprocket. So our first support character on the list. So Sprocket didn't have much in the way of a buff. It was just to his acceleration. Let me just double check. Double checking now. Yeah, his acceleration speed, time it takes to reach maximum movement speed. And that's not enough to do anything. He's still D tier. There is no reason to pick Sprocket above either of the other support characters. He just, again, much like Sentinel, sort of in the other direction, he just needs some fundamental changes. His ult turret needs more health. It needs to remain around longer. His own healing drone needs to be more resilient to damage, because it's so easy to get rid of. None of his abilities, in my opinion, are particularly special. Certainly not enough to outweigh him having a better, just flat-out healing ability. So unfortunately for you, Sprocket, he's still sat in D. Again, so we're using sort of the sort of Kyber 1 top 100 sort of list as a way to sort of benchmark this. You're just not going to see him. You're not going to see him in those lobbies, because top-end players know that you put yourself at a disadvantage. Next up, J3. I'm probably going to move him down. I previously had him at an A, and I think I'd possibly over-egged it slightly. In fact, no, I'm going to drop him all the way to C. Again, at this point, he's just not great. Obviously, he's fairly slow. His damage output, I would say, is mediocre. His pull ability is still pretty great, to be honest with you, and it can interrupt ults as long as you execute it at the right time. It's just there's better picks. There's honestly better picks. He's pretty tanky, you know, for a DPS character. So if you were trying to put some build together where you're just holding points and you want sort of some output of damage and sort of tankiness, but at that point, again, you just pick Sentinel. Honestly, Sentinel Char would just outclass him, even in damage. So unfortunately, J3 falls in at AC. So, interesting pick. Here she is, Chaos, our new hunter for Season 2. Tank class, of course. And before I started this video, I was thinking about where I want to put Chaos. I've had a bit of time playing with her now, and I do really enjoy playing as her. She's certainly not meta, so she's not going to be sitting in S. So she's floating between an A and a B for me. It's just where I want to put her. And unfortunately, I think she drops into B. B, probably slightly ahead of Groz. Reason being, her abilities, in my opinion, are just a little bit more valuable. Her shield bash is pretty great. It sends hunters flying way further than Sentinel's does, but it takes significantly longer to recharge than his does. So, you know, there's a bit of a trade-off there. Her ult is a bit underwhelming. She's quite vulnerable when in it, and I don't think it really does enough damage or has quite enough range to pull people in. So, as a result of that, I'm putting her in B. As I previously mentioned with Sentinel, she's just so vulnerable. Unfortunately, because her shields make her such a large target when she's in her guard, Sentinel can just blast her with a stun and go straight through it, puts her on her ass, and then she's a fairly easy kill. Her blaster is actually quite effective when she's got her shields together. Actually found myself using that quite a lot, and then sort of breaking out of that and hitting people with the dash and then the backhand. Don't often just use her melee too often. It's fairly slow and chunky. Obviously just kind of a backup when her shield breaks and she can't use her blaster. So I'm going to put her in B for now, but she's a high B. It's really fun with stuff like the new Vader's Castle map for knocking people off the edge. That's great fun. Obviously Char has some resistance to knockback, so it can be quite hard to knock Char off the map as a Sentinel. She has slightly less trouble because she can hit him further. So for that reason, she's got some value. So we're going to put her in B for now, but top of B for the moment. Next up, another DPS, we got Imara. So I previously kind of sort of sang Imara's praises in Season 1 and said that people were being too harsh on her. Just the way things have shaken out in Season 2, I think I'm going to be quite harsh on her. She got a 1 damage per round increase. It was from 12 to 13, I believe. Yeah, so weapon damage increased from 12 to 13. It's just not enough. It needed to be like 3 or 4 points, I think. There's just no reason to pick her. Again, if you're looking for range, we'll get to him later on, but Diago's on the list, is the far better pick. Again, even Sentinel, especially with his shield up when he's a bit more accurate, is just as lethal at most ranges. As a result, I'm going to drop her down to C. We had her at B previously. Her ult, still just too vulnerable. She's not hard to kill in her ult. She doesn't get any sort of health buff. And it's quite predictable. You see an Imara sort of grapple up to some point, get herself an advantage point, and then all it takes is a couple of headshots from Diago to put her down. For Reive can be quick and get in sort of to the side or behind her with a saber throw and a dash. She's gone. So right now, in C, I'd just say feels a bit uninspired at the moment. Not really many reasons to pick, which is a shame because some of her skins are some of the best in the game. Next up, Reive. Okay, so I still think Reive's the best damage hunter in the game. And we previously had her in the S rank. But the meta has formed itself in such a concrete fashion, and she sits outside of it. So with that in mind, I think I need to take that into account and rank her accordingly. As such, she's not going to get too hard of a punishment. She's going to go into A, behind Char, but ahead of Aaron. I still think she's got a better ult than Aaron for sure. Her ult can be incredible. Completely wipe teams. Pretty much only Sentinel with his shield up is resilient to it. Or of course other hunters in their ults like Utooni and whatnot. So we'll pop her into A. Her saber throw is still pretty lethal if you can hit it at the apex of its throw, so it does both the send and return damage at once. Her mobility is great with her leap and then her dash. Obviously both of them can also be doubled into attack techniques, and her output of her saber damage is nice and quick. But she just, in the meta situations again, if you're going into a 3-tank and a Skora lobby, you're going to struggle with Reive. She can't really pick tanks off too well. She's great at picking off the support, so you can chase down Skoras and Sprockets all day. But when you're fighting a Sentinel, a Char, even a Groz, to be honest with you, it can be an uphill battle for sure. So we're gonna pop her in A. Still the best DPS in the game, so spoiler alert, I think. But right now, definitely not seeing an S. Somebody who is seeing an S now though is Slingshot. There you go. Behind Sentinel for sure, because Sentinel is broken. Slingshot has shaken out to be fantastic. Great mobility. Obviously, he rolls pretty quick anyway. His dash gets him from point A to B really fast. And just again, and keep going on about it, and I'm sorry that I'm harping on, but in the current meta, he's just great. He's great for taking points. He do so much damage so fast. Using his blasters, drop rockets, dash, the damage from his shield burst, which is dropped down, that's been reduced, but it's still absolutely lethal. As a Reive main, he's a nightmare, because she doesn't have enough damage from her saber throw to crack his shield, and then you need to get close. And at that point, you're vulnerable because as soon as you break his shield, you take a massive amount of damage. Let's just check what he's doing at the moment. I need to check. So it's gone down from 60 to 50, but it's still so much considering she's got 150 HP. And then all you need to do is turn around, drop some rockets on you, and you're basically, it's night-night. So when you're pairing him with Char's, Sentinels, Skoras, he's incredible. Definitely S tier now. What did we have him at previously? I had him at A previously, so he's gone up. And again, that's strange because he's actually been nerfed, but it's more of a situational sort of boost here because of the way things are shaking out in competitive lobbies. So S tier for now. Great character. Another S, Skora. She goes in above him. So Skora's also had some nerfs. So she's had her damage and healing decrease from 20 to 15, and her ammo capacity has gone down from 12 to 10. So this is for her needle applicator. However, the problem is her ult is just still so valuable. Her ult does so much damage and so much healing when it's down, especially in dynamic control and power control. She pretty much just forces points in your favor, unless you really mess it up and you massively time it poorly when you're like core dead or something. You're just taking a point. It's absolutely insane. The reduction to her needle applicator is by the by. It's still good enough. Especially when you're hitting shots and you haven't got somebody missing. It's more than fine. And she just gets her ult so quick just by using her boost ability. Drop one at the start of the game, and then if you've got a competent healer and they're just dropping them constantly, she's got an ult every point, it feels like. Certainly S, again, she's the best support in the game for sure. So behind Sentinel and S, but slightly above Slingshot. So next up, another DPS, we've got Diago. So toughy for me actually, think about where he goes. I'm going to pop him in A. He would be a high B A, so I'm going to put him in A for now because in the hands of the right player, he's absolutely incredible. I'm not the right player. I'm not a good Diago, and I'm definitely not getting the value out of it I should be. His ult, incredible. Can just completely delete some kind of like reasons, rescore his Aaron pretty much. The issue is he finds a lot of Diago players not really contributing to objective game modes as a result of trying to stay out of the combat and just snipe people. And again, in those sort of really high rank scenarios, he's just not a great pick versus the tanks. You might be a great Diago, but you're still probably offering more to your team as Char. So we're going to go low A for now, Really fun though. Unfortunately, I'm just not very good at him. So next up, our final support, Zaina. So I previously had her in A. She was the bottom of A. And just with the way things are shaken out and the way players are using characters, she's going to go top of B. Reason being, it's her comparison with Skora. If you were in a match scenario where it was 3 tanks that you both had Slingshot, Char, and Sentinel, one team had Skora, one team had Zaina, you'd probably give the nod 9 times out of 10 to the team with Skora. This is if, you're both playing really good players on both sides, a great Zaina and a great Skora. Skora's just going to do more. Her ult is just better than Zaina's. Obviously, you pop Zaina's down, it gives a really decent health boost to everyone. But Skora, even with her nerfs to her needle applicator, is probably still just better support. She can sit back, she doesn't have to sit in the fight. And she's much easier to hit targets with than Zaina's blaster as well. So given that comparison with Skora, Zaina sits high B, still a very good character, and she probably is just outside of A in this ranking. But she doesn't quite have enough anymore for me to put her back into A or S. In soft launch, I would have put her at an S because she used to have a grenade, so her offensive capabilities were fantastic. But right now, I'm going to put her at B. I'm hoping she gets some sort of buff in the next update. Maybe that her back to bomb does a little bit more, or she can use it ever so slightly more frequently. She can be a nightmare to track down though. If you've got a competent Zaina rolling around, dropping the bomb. I was playing some Reive earlier, trying to chase down a very good Zaina, and she was hard to kill. Got there in the end, but she can waste a lot of your time chasing her down, and she's very hard to kill when she wants to be. So on to our final hunter. So we've got Utooni. Another one I had to think about a little bit. I'm gonna put Utooni right now. Yeah, they are an A or a B realistically. I'm probably gonna go there in B. Utooni excels. Hard counter to Skora and Reive for sure. When you're playing Reive, you come up against a semi-good Utooni, especially with the Artcaster. Just, my god, it's just so hard to stop. And then even if you do manage to kill them, oftentimes the grenade they drop down will get you as one of the lower HP characters. Again, this is based off of where Utooni sits in the current sort of high ranking meta. Really good on maps like the Spiral Row, much like Roz, when you're close quarters and you can really make the most of the grenades, the boost. Oh, sorry, not the boost. What do I want to call it? That little sort of jump with the knockback, and then the Artcaster, as well as the I forget the pulse rifle to do splash damage can be great. And you can often see Utooni's doing like 6, 7, 8,000 damage, no problem in games. Ult's still pretty lethal, so we're going to go in B, slightly behind Zaina, and then below these 3 in terms of damage. I just feel like these 3 DPS characters have more utility than Utooni does right now. So there you have it, my updated tier list for Star Wars Hunters Season 2. I hope you guys enjoyed that one. If you did, please drop a like on the video, and if you loved it, of course, feel free to get subscribed. Streams will be back soon. I'm currently just taking a little bit of a break as we've had a newborn, so I'm dedicating my time to helping out and spending time and enjoying with them, of course. It can be quite hard to find 2, 3, even 4 hours for a stream when you've got a newborn baby in the house, but fear not, they'll be back sooner rather than later, as well as some Star Wars Outlaw streams at the end of the month. That is only 2 weeks away, so if you're looking forward to that as well, make sure you hang around and get subbed. Anyway, I've been Parallel. It's been great to have you in the cantina, and we'll catch you next one. Peace.